What's up, everybody? Sorry for the little delay. Just getting cooking, getting everything on the social media platforms we need to do. What a Wednesday. Kind of a crazy Wednesday for me, but hopefully this is finding you well. Happy Wednesday. We got a golf tournament tomorrow, and we're running out of opportunities for golf this year. After this, we go to Sea Island, and it's the last real tournament of the year. Yeah, we go to the Bahamas and we have a team event, but this is the second to last tournament. Next week is the last before the new year, before the holidays, before the new year. So if you got any 2021 DFS PGA goals out there, only got 2 more weeks, 2 more weeks to kind of get it done. I want to jump into strategy, and I just mentioned this on Twitter because I'm seeing a lot of people more and more use language in a specific way that is actually not great in DFS. This community of the golf betting, golf DFS is such a wonderful community, and we're just seeing more and more of new people come into the community and more people show support, which is just so awesome. And I love it. And there's so many good people out there to follow, and appreciate y'all, appreciate you listening, appreciate Jerz and everybody who we work with. But I just want to remind some people, if you're new to DFS, how we want to conceptualize DFS and how it's different than betting. There's a lot of good golf handicappers out there, a lot, and everybody we interact with is excellent. They wouldn't be good if they weren't doing this. You can't hide. And we can. The good thing about Twitter is we can kind of see how people use their strategy, how people cap, how people conceptualize their picks, and that's evidence right there that shows, okay, yeah, they're sharp. Unfortunately, DFS is a whole different game, and DFS is tricky. It's a puzzle because the majority of people who play DFS, unfortunately, play the wrong game. And that's what their game is, that they believe it's a handicapping contest where if your budget only allows you to pick 6 golfers, like the salary and the variables within making a lineup in DFS, we have 50,000, and we think we got to pick the 6 best golfers within that lineup. And for cash games, yeah, for double ups, head to heads, cash games, yeah, that all makes sense. But when we're playing in large field GPPs, and things change as the contest size shrinks, but in large field GPPs, the game is against our competitors, the people we're trying to get who are also competing against, trying to get first place and get that huge GPP takedown. And so it's not a handicapping contest. We're not trying to figure out which 6 golfers, using my strategy, the same strategy I used betting outright. We're not trying to find the best 6 golfers that all think we have the highest opportunity to win, because unfortunately, even though we're all great handicappers, predicting golf is very, very hard. What is less hard is predicting what the masses will do. And that's why ownership is something that is predictable. And we have projections on ownership. But we want to think of, okay, handicapping outrights, yeah, it's about who do we think has the upside versus value to win and to kind of get a positive ROI, or if we're betting top 5, 10s, whatever. But in DFS, it's not the case. How do we use a combination of strategy, handicapping, and then the game theory piece? Not playing our cards, playing the man. How do we play against the group? How do we play against people? So really, DFS is also not just about handicapping, but lessons in group psychology. Group psychology is so key. It's how some people take advantage of stocks and kind of buy low, buy in early, and sell when the right time. Same thing is in DFS, especially PGA. That's why I love golf DFS. It's game theory. I personally believe is king in there. Now it's utilized in every sport, but I think it's just king in golf. So I just wanted to share that, just to remind you that it's not a handicapping contest. Yeah, handicapping is very, very important, but DFS is a whole different animal where the real game is competing against the people in our contest. And so how do we get contrarian? You hear that word a lot, but basically is how do we find leverage that gives us a higher opportunity week to week through our strategy to help win us a takedown of a GPP, because that's your goal. You can't be entering GPPs, large field ones at least, to just min cash. You're not going to sustain yourself. Your goal has to be to take it down And if you only take down one a year, you're like, and the larger ones, you're likely going to make a huge ROI still if it's just one a year. Probably that will carry you for the next couple of years, depending on the contest. So, and depending on your bankroll and how kind of disciplined you are. And so all you need is one a year. So it's not just a handicap. It's not really a handicapping contest at all. That's important, but we got to play the people we're competing against. We want to find leverage. You know, if you have a guy, let's say, who finishes 17th in your lineup and he's at 20%, or if you have a guy who finished 17th and is at 5%, well, if you roster the guy that's at 5%, your other lineup can be less right than the guy who played 20%. So that's just kind of an example. Well, let's run through the field a little bit. I'm going to share quickly my screen, obviously, but a couple of plays that I'm going to do. And let's see, just share the screen. So let's dive in. Yeah, hopefully you can see it. Let's make sure. All right, you can see it. So this is FanShare Protective Ownership. Obviously, FanShare ownership is the best. Shout out to them. Sam Burns, no surprise, 21%, one of the highest owned guys. Scotty Scheffler kind of, going down with some negative sentiment, which means his ownership is becoming a little less. I love seeing that. I was on Scotty outright and heavy on a DFS last week at kind of flow ownership compared to the caliber that Scotty is. So I'm happy to see him under 20%. I really am. I might throw a few more shares in. All my lineups are all entered, but I might, kind of mix things around based on ownership. Sungjae 13, or I guess we'll round that up to 14. Good number for Sungjae. Course fit. Let's look at it. So right here, this is the course suitability ranking. Sungjae ranks second. That means he suits well for the course. That's Lee Aldrich's kind of tool right there. Sungjae, 14%. Ranked second in course sustainability ranking. Kind of trending nicely with some strokes gained data. A lot of leverage there. Is there much separating a Sungjae from a Scheffler, from a Burns? They all can win. They all are great golfers. Yeah, Burns might be projected to have a better week, but this is DFS. And one thing I did with these top guys, all the way up from Wolf to Burns, these guys are all around 15 or 20%. The top guys in DFS, the margins are so thin. Now, when we get into 6K golfers, a guy who's 7K and a guy who's 6K, yeah, those margins are not thin. Yeah, that talent gap could be huge. But talent gap up top is smaller. It's much smaller. So that's why, unless I love a guy, so like last week, I thought Hovland and JT were well above the field, and those were the two of my highest owned guys. On a usual week, since the margins are so small, if I don't love a guy up top, I tend to spread up top. And that's what I did this week, except for Cam Smith. Cam Smith, his number creeped up a little bit, but 15% for Cam Smith. That's great. I went overweight on him. Very overweight. He's my highest owned golfer at 60%. Also, if you're new for DFS, I always recommend, if you can bankroll it and it's part of your budget, you stay within your means, you can enter a contest. It gives you a number of advantages over your playing competitors. And if you do that, how you construct your player pool is so important. And you want to build it as like a pyramid model where, one or two guys as high owned, anywhere between 50 and 70. Sometimes if I love a guy, I might throw him 80 or 90, 100. But 50 to 70, and then you kind of work your way out, and the ownership spread as you get down to maybe the 15% range, and then it kind of shrinks again a little bit. That's what we mean with the period, type pyramid share of the guys we roster. I included Hatton originally in my player pool, especially at 10%, but pool was too big for what I wanted it to be, so I had to exclude him. But I don't hate Hatton. 10%. That's a great ownership number on Hatton. 32. Anything within the 30s is pretty good. And I know, of course, suitability. Cameron Smith 91. Not too worried about that. And then we come to the big unknown, which is Brooks. Brooks getting a lot of love in the betting outright markets, and makes sense. 30-1 is a good number on him. He's below 10K. People might think that's value for Brooks, maybe, but what's not value is almost 19%. We'll round that up. 19% ownership on Brooks. Tough to buy in. Tough to buy in for me. He's not coming in playing that well. Not really kind of controlling his ball that well in the air. Not sure. Coming out a couple missed cuts, and I know a lot of people were relating it to the waste management. Waste management, the tournament before, he showed some life on approach. We don't have strokes gained data for last week, but I would be hard pressed to imagine that he gained strokes on approach. So I don't love Brooks. But the thing about waste management, Brooks wasn't coming into waste management at 18% owned. Brooks was closer to 10%. So, and obviously he's not aware of what his ownership is, but long term, that won't sustain yourself. There's too many question marks for Brooks. Why are you gonna invest 18? I always say it's helpful to think of ownership projections, like ownership number, as some of the salary. So Brooks is a very expensive ownership wise. And why are we rostering him with that many owners? I mean, that much. Yeah, how expensive he is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, his upside's great. We know his upside. But there's a couple of unknown variables at 18%. I was hoping if he was like 12, I was gonna get a lot of Brooks, but 18. And I know you're asked like, hey, that's just a few number difference. That's 6 point difference. But there's let's give it a point or two margin of error within these ownership projections. And so if it's 2 points, he'd be 20%. Well, that's a huge difference from 12. And so I'm just not going to play him. And I think a lot of people are actually starting their lineups with Brooks, or you can actually fit him in with the Burns Brooks. I think we'll see a lot of that. Moving down to Scott. Adam Scott, I wanted to include him in the model. When he's under 10%, it's hard not to play him. He's ranked 5th in course suitability ranking. Gosh, a single-digit Adam Scott at a course like this, I couldn't fit him in. This was a roster construction or a pool construction, I should say. Just couldn't fit the guy in. I love him. Named my dog after him. Fun fact. Couldn't fit him in. And that's because I love a guy. Well, I'm not going to go into that. I love a guy right below him, kind of Gooch, but really Neiman. Neiman, I'm high on Neiman this week. But let's go to the Gooch, the wise Gooch. We got a wise Gooch here. Gooch, 9th course suitability ranking, Wise, 19th. So I wrote this on the FanShare article. Wise coming in at 20%, very expensive ownership-wise. If the talk that we have, the whole course is overseeded, well, the course it's going to play easier than it did last year, if that's true, if it is overseeded. One thing Aaron Wise excels at is around the green, specifically on Bermuda. I think it was when I read the FanShare article, if you remember, over the last 24 rounds, strokes gained around the green, Wise ranks 5th. But when you get an overseeded Bermuda, the ball sits up better, around the green becomes easier. So that strength gets kind of negated a little bit. What maybe makes the course, since it will be overseeded, it's a little bit softer. So maybe it plays a little longer. Aaron Wise is not long off the tee, not good with his long irons either, as it relates to proximity. So if all that's true, there's some question marks and some things I doubt about Aaron Wise. And at 20%, it's a hard fade for me. Not even touching him. I think he's terrible chalk. He's bad chalk. It was the first time I think ever in the PGA article in FanShare I mentioned a fade. Usually I pick 5 guys that are low owned. I like to talk about. Big game theory thing here is fade Aaron Wise. 20% owned, way too high with some of these unknown variables. And could I be wrong? Yeah, I mean, I'm wrong a lot. But over the course of a DFS career, you're not going to make a lot of money continuing to play 20% guys like Aaron Wise. The other thing about Aaron Wise is that we have a lot of back class history on him. He's playing above his means than we're usually seeing Aaron Wise play. Yeah, maybe he played well, figured something out, and this is the Aaron Wise we're going to see forever. Maybe, likely not. What also is likely that he may come back down to the norm, to the numbers we're usually seeing Aaron Wise at. So, look out for that. Gooch. So I'm going to toot my own horn. Before the 3M late last summer, I said, Gooch has so much talent, kills it on approach, struggles off the tee, also good around the green. Watch out for Gooch in the fall swing. I started playing him in the first turn of the fall swing. People were roasting me, saying MC miscut, incoming, all that bullshit. And look at him now. Gooch at 9,300. He's almost 20% owned too. Very, very, very. I guess not surprised, but if you talk about it last summer, people would be very surprised because Gooch was in the 6Ks for some tournaments. But the guy is super talented. I see high things for Gooch, but the betting outright's a bad number. It's hard for me, who I'm used to getting Gooch at 100 to 80 to 1. It's hard getting him in the 20s. It's hard rostering him when he's 20% owned. But he does still have so much upside. I'm underweight, but just a tad underweight on Gooch, still rostering him. But Aaron Wise is a total fade. Kokrak, no. Henley, I wanted Henley because the recency bias with Henley is so big. He's been chalked the last few tournaments. Making sure we don't have comments. Yeah, he's been chalked last few tournaments, and now he's under 15%. He's 11%. We're rounding up to 12. He's 12% owned. Ownership discount. And watch Henley finish top 5 this week and kind of burn everybody. I want him to include him in. Couldn't do it. Had to cut the player pool. Kokrak, no. I know a lot of people are on him. We're not. Kokrak is one of those guys. He's great as a handicapper, in my opinion, because Kokrak is streaky, but we'll call him like long-term streaky, where we can follow trends with Kokrak and know when he's playing well and know when he's not playing well. And he's not playing well right now. And so that, unfortunately, that not playing well can be consistent, just like when he is playing well, that can be consistent. And not touching him, maybe if he was 2% owned, 1%, maybe. But I love Mark Leishman, and I'm so glad Mark Leishman is 10% owned. Mentioned also in the article that he excels on one around the green, and he's a great putter. But one thing he really does well is his proximity numbers with the long irons are great. And we're going to get we need a lot of long irons this week. And so we also, I mentioned too, proximity is big. The greens are large here, and there's undulations, and I think there's shelving to some. So you could, 3-putt avoidance and lag putting are going to be good. So if you can kind of hit it in the right part of the green, proximity is going to be key. Bezadenud is the same deal. Great long iron. I think he actually ranks first putting on Bermuda last 24, and also first strokes gained short game on Bermuda is Bez. So I really like Bez. Only 10% too. And guy has a lot of talent. We're going to see him contend in more majors. We're going to see Bez a lot. Really, really like him. I know we're running a little low on time to come. Atlanto, talked about him on Twitter, sure. Mac Hughes played well, I think it was last week. EVR, really like 7% EVR. That's people are going to kick in themselves come. You know what? I'm going to throw out a hot take here. You know how much I love Thursday golf, or Thursday golf Twitter, I should say. It's ridiculous. I think EVR is going to get off to a good start, and you're going to see people say, "Oh, I should have played AVR," or "He was my one guy I put out there." Don't make that mistake. Play EVR. Mito, don't get off the Mito bus. You got to keep riding that. Woodland, go back to Woodland. Grace is interesting. I'm glad he's 5%. A lot of people were talking about him, and I was like, gosh, if he gets up to 15, got to jump off. Glad to see him stay so low. I'm on him. Vegas at 10%. Usually Vegas is chalk in this area. This is a Vegas course. Long, straight, Bermuda, Vegas. Yeah, sign me up for Vegas. Munoz, I get it. Jason Day. We see the return of Jason Day. Ricky kind of making a comeback. Played well early in the fall swing. Jason Day, welcome back, Mr. Day. Hopefully it's his day Sunday. I wouldn't be opposed. Good course fit, great around the green, great on Bermuda. He can just keep it straight if he can control his irons. Watch out for Jason Day. Haven't seen him in a while, so if some people say, well, I'm going to wait and see approach. Well, we can buy low on Jason Day. This is a great buy low opportunity with the possible upside. We haven't seen him in a while. What if he's been like a Brooks and he's a range rat and he's been killing it on the range and he's found a swing? 10% owned Jason Day, yeah. Here's what I think is going to be the difference maker is CT Pan. I think I'm like 12 to 15% CT pan and 150 lineups. That's a lot. I like CT pan a lot. Charlie Hoffman too. Big on him. Let's look at Reavie, back to him. Pendrith, I'm kind of less likely to keep Pendrith. I have a few shares on him, but I'm probably going to have to move that. Ryan Palmer, shout out to Blatant Golf Boy. Shout out to my man Joe, Chief. Big Ryan Palmer guy. Trying to remember that actor's name that he keeps saying. God, it's been a long Wednesday, guys. So first of all, I work in the healthcare industry. I have my own not my own private practice. I work in a private practice setting, and when you work with a lot of people's problems, it can get mentally draining. And now I'm just stalling to try to remember Coach Taylor. Friday Night Lights. Oh man, it's been a long day. I can't wait to sit back and watch golf this weekend, guys. And watch it with you all and chill and Twitter or whatever. Keith Mitchell, yeah. Norlander, yeah. I really like Norlander. I was looking more at the data today, and I don't have it in front of me, but Norlander won as a course fit, 27 course suitability ranking, but also coming in kind of nice, if I remember correctly. Rai Thigala. I do want to talk about Thigala, a fellow Pepperdine Wave. You know, I didn't graduate from Pepperdine, but went there for a little bit. Cool place on the beach. Had an ocean view from my dorm. Hashtag humble brag, I guess that is. But anyway, Thigala. Liked him in Bermuda. I said in the article, the thing I worry about Thigala at Bermuda, I said he likes to move the ball a lot off the tee. If you do that in the wind, can kind of not be good. He doesn't putt well on Bermuda, but he doesn't putt well really much anything, or he hasn't so far this year. I like going back to Thigala here with the, we know his, what do I want to say? We know how good he is. College Player of the Year, killed it. I think Pepperdine won the national championship last year. Go Waves. Swafford, Sink, yeah. And I want to go to Uncle Jimmy. I want to go back to Jimmy Walker. He's down there somewhere. You see him. Jimmy Walker. Andrew Putnam, too. Look out for the Putster. But Jimmy Walker, get him in your lineups. Coming back, just you and I, everybody. Well, just remember, if you only take away one thing from this incoherent rant that I'm doing this Wednesday, is that you have to separate your ability to handicap and then understand that it's a whole different animal when you get into DFS. So it's like, I'm putting my handicap cap on right now and I'm looking at golf, I'm making outrights, making matchups, making top 5, 20s, whatever. You take that off, you put the DFS hat on, you're like, all right, game theory mode. And the hardest thing what people do is I have to then distance myself from the attachments I make to my outrights. Because what people tend to do is, like, Monday, I look at the betting board and I love this guy. I already bet him because I want the number to go down. I already bet him, and there it is. And then we can think, gosh, okay, I want to talk myself into it to kind of affirm my pick. So we justify and rationalize why that guy is going to win. And there comes the human error. And they're like, all right, well, he is going to win. So let's not even worry about ownership and strategy. Let's just make sure he's in the player pool. And it might not be a good DFS play. Yeah, sure, he could win. You get paid outright and you get played in DFS. And sometimes, it works out whether they're both. But remember, we have to wear those two different hats. So, well, good stuff, guys. This was fun. We're running. The sun is setting. Gosh, one more time around the sun after this week. Kind of bummed. But then we jump into the holidays and ready to pick it back up at Kapalua and Maui. What amazing. That's always a fun tournament. So yeah, well, good luck this week, guys. Let's watch. Let's have some fun. Let's be kind to ourselves. Let's be kind to others. And let's take a GPP down. Reach out on Twitter. Appreciate y'all. Take care. One love.